okay, put all the animals out and send your in-laws home. And he goes back to the hovel, and it's spacious, and it couldn't be any better. In this case, here are the Jews, they're in exile. All the leadership of the Jewish nation are in exile. They're off. They're gone. And they are enslaved. They're not where they're supposed to be, and they know the oppression of it all. And in the midst of this comes Isaiah's voice, a voice of hope in the midst of it all. And the words in my translation that speak to me, that call me out of it, are, I am the Lord. I have called you in righteousness. I have taken you by the hand and kept you. I have given you as a covenant to the people, a light to the nations. They have a purpose larger than their simple existence. They belong in relationship with God who cares and who created them for special purpose. To bring out the prisoners from the dungeon. Now you begin to hear. You hear Jesus in the Gospel of Luke, right? Opening the scroll. To bring out the prisoners from the dungeon, from the prison, those who sit in darkness. Doesn't that sound like Luke? Jesus in the synagogue, first public words. I am the Lord, that's my name. Isaiah says. Things couldn't be worse, and Isaiah says, hold on. Things are going to be better. I wonder what it's like for you this morning. I know what it was like for me this morning. Last night I listened to the news. Did you hear the news? What sticks in your mind from the news last night? Shooting in Arizona. 6 people killed, 19 injured. What else? Birds falling out of the sky. What else? Fish.
So many fish that have died.
Fish died. Collapsing of the fisheries. What other news? I was going to say good news, bad news.
Local news, break-ins at Latin Square.
Break-ins? What's it feel like? Rabbi, holy rabbi. I bet they could be worse, right? But there's a whole lot in the midst of, of the context in which we live that can just feel like bad news. The political rhetoric, I find I cannot listen to the news on television or even on the radio more than once a day because I find myself just tightening up and wanting to participate in the vitriol of the rhetoric. Does that happen to you? I just want to spit in names. I am so ticked off. Of course, I've got my own, agenda, of course. My agenda's right, isn't it? Theirs is wrong. Mine's the one that matters. Right? And then along comes this gospel and all this, and I hear, and I can find myself getting called back into, thank goodness, getting called back into the one sermon that I have. I used to have lots of sermons, and now I'm down to one sermon, right? And now Andrea and some others could just go ahead from here, right? You know what my one sermon is. These are texts. This is about a God who cares. This is about a God who is in the midst of what it is, in the midst of our living. This baptismal story is about a God coming present into our midst, flesh and blood, mud and all. And it brings to mind for me, all these texts bring to mind for me, that wonderful poem by James Weldon Johnson. Do you ever sing? You know the chorus, do you? I wonder if the choruses still do it. We used to do it in high school. The Creation Story by James Weldon Johnson. Some of you know it. It's great poetic imagery because James Weldon Johnson, that great African-American Negro poet of the early part of the 20th century, picked up this story of creation. And he talked about the creation story just like this, in real homely terms. He said, the first day of creation was like this. God went out and he did this. He separated night from day. And he said, that's good. But the first thing he said, even before that, was, God looked out on everything and God said, I'm lonely. Isn't that a wonderful word? I'm lonely, God said. And then began to go through the days of creation. First day. And said, well, that's really good, but I'm still lonely. And second day, and third day, and fourth day, and fifth day, and finally, sixth day, I'm still lonely. And God knelt down on the banks of a river, down in the mud of a river. James Weldon Johnson says poetically. And out of the banks of that river, he scooped the clay. And he formed an image like himself, as poetry goes. And he took that figure and he breathed into that figure. And that's how God created humanity. Isn't that just wonderful imagery? It's an imagery that says we matter. We're created for relationship. We're created to be in relationship with Creator. And just like zippers that don't match, if we don't make our way into that relationship, we aren't whole. But creation calls us into relationship with the one who made us, to be whole. Now, wholeness is a task, isn't it? Being whole. Being alive. Being unswayed by everything that goes wrong, and goodness knows a lot goes wrong in this world. Finding our rootedness in our baptism, because baptism is about our relationship with the one who created us, the one who loved us. And Jesus, fulfilling all righteousness, he says, looks up, and the heavens open to him, and the heavens say, they speak words of relationship is what they say, don't they? This is my son, my beloved. And I believe, this is my one sermon in a different form, I believe that that's what our baptisms provide for us. That sense of a groundedness that says we're whole when we're in God. When we, what was the prayer I started with? Oh God, our rock and our Redeemer. When our feet are firmly planted, there's a great hymn for that too, isn't there? When our feet are firmly planted in the rock of our faith, in a God who created and who loved us from the very beginning. And when our faith is firmly planted there, there's no reason to be afraid. There's no reason for me to find myself spitting back nails at the vitriolic language on TV. I can put it away. It's not mine. I don't belong there. That's not what I was created for. Rather, we were created to be in this kind of a relationship, or maybe not necessarily in this church, but in gatherings, in human gatherings, all